Hello everybody, welcome to Snyder's Inc. And today we got more videos here for you. We got killer teens react to life sentences. Ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button, hit subscribe button, comment your thing down below. If you'd like to help the channel, I will donate. You can leave a super thanks or link to our PayPal in the description. Let's go.
Deserve what I did to them. I wanted to plead guilty because I deserve what I did to them. I wanted to plead guilty because I want to accept responsibility for what I did.
Alright, I'll tell you what happened. Alright, so I got home, I got in an argument with my mom. She slapped me across the face. She began to hit me. She started beating me. I didn't like it, so I strangled her to death.
You throw her, you force her to the floor, and you choke the life out of her. How'd that make you feel?
I felt nothing. Since I'm a minor, can I even go to prison? Is it like a thing?
Not only have I stolen my mother from my...
Oh, that's a guy who knows you thinks he can get away with it still. That's why he confessed so quickly, that one dude we saw in that interview. That's why he confessed so quickly. He thought he can't go to jail. That's immediately what his thought was.
Myself, but from everybody else as well. Because of my actions, I will never get to truly know my mom.
This, to me, is so mind-boggling.
This is Dexter Johnson, who's on trial for double murder in Texas. According to reports, on June 18, 2006, Johnson and his gang carjacked 23-year-old Maria Aparici, who was sitting in her car with 17-year-old Huey Ngo. The gang then drove them to a secluded area where Johnson assaulted Aparici while her boyfriend Ngo was forced to listen. Johnson and an accomplice then took the couple to a nearby woods and executed them. The 18-year-old was arrested after...
Oh, that's straight murder. You ain't gonna convince anyone out of that one. You're going to jail for, like... You're going to jail for... You're going to hell also. You're going to jail, then you're going to hell.
Police traced Aparici's stolen credit card, which was used after the crime. Eventually, Johnson was found guilty of capital murder. Now, at his sentencing, the defendant is about to learn his fate.
Dexter Darnell Johnson, the jury has found you guilty of capital murder. In accordance with the laws of the state of Texas, this court hereby assesses your punishment of death. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is going to complete your jury service. I'm going to meet you in the jury room.
All rise.
Johnson went into a shock, unable...
He's not even gonna rise. He can't... Bro, what you think? Bro, you committed murder without a second thought. You are heartless. You are a heartless, senseless, remorseless bastard. And you committed murder to two people. You didn't deserve a thing, any issue they had with you. They had no issue. Two strangers. You carjacked them, you raped one of them, you murdered both of them. You die in prison.
to stand up while his family broke down in the gallery. Suddenly, Johnson exploded, causing total pandemonium in the courtroom.
So, I saw people commenting on this. I think it was this one, I'm gonna assume. When the woman's crying. Because she, her son's going to jail. Well, not going to jail, he's gonna die. Like, she has just heard her. That woman knows her son is going to die at some point. He doesn't have a choice in that matter. Unless the law just changes again and the death sentence is removed and anyone who hasn't been sentenced to death is now just sentenced to life. As far as she knows, her son is going to die at some point. So yeah, you're going to be upset. It's going to hurt, break your heart. That's not going to sit with you. You never want to admit your son is a murderer. No, there are rarely ever cases I have seen, where the family is easily able to accept that their child is a murderer. Like, never happens. Because they don't want to believe they've raised a murderer. So in their mind, they're always innocent. They'll never admit it.
Keep everybody back!
Eventually, Johnson was cuffed and removed from the court. But the chaos was far from over, which had spilled out into the hallway. The situation got so out of hand, one officer had to call for medical attention for the distraught family members.
Hey, I'm gonna call an ambulance, ma'am. Do you want an ambulance?
Yeah, I need an ambulance.
As for Johnson, his execution was later halted by a federal court, citing intellectual disability. He is still on death row. While the Johnson family outburst was truly spectacular, how does it compare to...
Interesting. So I mean, I don't know why that's surprising. Usually, unless, I don't know, maybe fuck name of death row, maybe. I've seen death row down there for like 30 years. I don't know what the... I still have never been able to read... No one's been able to explain to me how the death row works, so you can only... Why people stay on death row for so fucking long.
The actions of Michael Swanson, who's on trial for double murder in Carroll County, Iowa. In November 2010, 17-year-old Swanson reportedly stole his mother's Jeep and drove to 2 gas stations in northern Iowa, where he fatally shot both Sheila Myers and Vicky Bowman Hall during a robbery attempt. Shortly after, Swanson was arrested and charged with robbery and first-degree murder.
Police dashcam video taken hours after 2 convenience store clerks were murdered. The pictures show a calm Michael Swanson being taken into custody at a Webster City McDonald's after workers there spotted a suspicious vehicle.
Police found a ski mask and the gun he used to shoot the 2 store clerks in Swanson's Jeep.
Inside Swanson's stolen Jeep Cherokee, officers testified they found a ski mask, clothing, and weapons, including a handgun wedged between the driver's seat and console.
During interrogation, Swanson claimed he felt powerful while committing the murders.
I was curious, how did it feel when you pulled the trigger? I mean, some people say that, it feels powerful or that it's kind of a rush, or what did you feel when you pulled the trigger?
I felt powerful, but I don't know, I just didn't really care.
How else did you feel?
It had no effect on me. I just didn't even care. No, I don't know. I just felt like my adrenaline was pumping. I felt good.
Okay.
He then went on to describe the shooting in gruesome detail.
And where did you shoot?
Around her body?
Yeah.
In the face.
In the face? Okay.
She made, some noise. And she just fell down. She just kind of fell on the ground.
You said that she made some type of noise. What type of noise did she make?
I just kind of sounded like she was surprised. She was like, ow! I don't know.
While being escorted to the courtroom, Swanson acted like a celebrity.
So why did you come to Iowa?
Oh no.
What's so funny? You're smiling.
Y'all are funny.
His defense initially sought a plea of insanity due to Swanson's troubled childhood and a history of untreated mental health issues.
This is my new favorite thing I've come to realize. You know when a lawyer will do insanity plea? When they know there's no other option. You will never see, you will always see, if you listen to these cases where they do insanity pleas, or they try to convince insanity, it's never when they actually believe the person's innocent. It's when the lawyer knows they have no other option to go to. That's when they do it.
Cannot hold him legally responsible for a condition he's born with, and that's exactly what happened.
A doctor who puts in his report that without antipsychotic medication, he's going to rob people, he's going to use weapons.
A court doctor who evaluated Swanson described the defendant's obsession with crime.
He had been, quotes, planning something to this degree, including killing people. He said, I have always been fascinated by death and violence, and it was something that I wanted to do, murder and cannibalism.
However, Swanson later pleaded guilty to the murders.
I then intentionally, deliberately, and with premeditation shot the clerk, causing her to die. I did this with a specific intent to kill her.
At his sentencing, an emotional daughter of the victim addressed her mother's killer.
How could you do what you did to my mom and my family? I want to know if you're even sorry. My mom was not only completely 100% innocent.
I would love to have known what the reaction would have been. Like, I would love to know if you saw he was winning. No. Like, if he would just straight responded, I wouldn't know what the reaction would be.
Innocent, but she was also a defenseless woman when you came in with that gun. You said you did it for cigarettes and money, and so no one could identify you, but I think that's a lie.
The husband of Sheila Myers was so distraught that the prosecutor had to read his statement. Then the judge directly addressed Swanson, who shockingly found the whole situation funny.
And your counsel wants us to believe that You lacked the capacity, that you were insane. And I don't buy into that. You are dangerous, you are unpredictable, and there is no place for you in an open, law-abiding society.
Ultimately, Swanson was sentenced to 2 life terms for the murders.
I think that's good, because he might not be insane, but there's something not right with him. The fact that he finds someone just finds this whole fucking thing insane. Like, he just thinks he's gonna get out somehow, it almost feels like.
Of Sheila Myers and Vicky Bowman Hall. While Michael Swanson showed no remorse in the courtroom, what happens when a convict breaks down in court? Like in the case of Dylan Schumacher, who's accused of
I've seen this one a bunch of times in court videos.
Killing a toddler in Springville. In March 2013, Schumacher was babysitting his 19-year-old girlfriend's toddler at their home, while he allegedly beat the 1-year-old child to death when the baby wouldn't stop crying. The 16-year-old then called authorities, saying the child had stopped breathing.
Deputies, upon arrival, immediately noted the bruising about the face and head of the child.
First responders found the boy with bruises all over his body and gave him CPR, but baby Austin did not survive. Schumacher was arrested shortly after and charged with murder. His sister Alex claimed her brother snapped after being unable to cope with teenage fatherhood.
He got 2 kids dumped on him out of nowhere. And he just snapped.
Eventually.
What do you mean he had 2? You mean he had sex twice? He had sex and he lived in childhood? That's what happens. You know what you tell him if he says, I can't handle being a father? Stop fucking. Do anything but it's his fault that he did not just have 2 children dumped. In fact, he couldn't literally have 2 children dumped on him out of nowhere because he had about 9 months notice that both of them were coming. He had about 9 months to notice to prepare for each child. And look, here's the other thing. If he can't handle being a father, there's teens that can't handle being a father. That's not shocking to me that a 16, 17-year-old, something like that, can't handle being a father. I wouldn't have been able to if I was a child of that age. No fucking way could I have been able to handle that responsibility. You don't need to kill the child. You just said, look, you just straight up say, I'm not able to be the one that take care of the child at the moment. I'm not able to. And that's an end of it. Nothing that sister could say could undo this. This guy needs to go to prison for the rest of his life.
Schumacher was found guilty of second-degree murder.
Absolutely.
At his sentencing, the defense fought for the minimum sentence of 15 years.
Oh, I remember I don't like this lawyer. I remember this lawyer just looks ridiculous. And I think he's an awful lawyer.
To life.
Smith was completely defenseless. That's a given. But there were other dynamics at work there, including my client's inability to either control his anger or frustration and his inexperience in babysitting.
Schumacher also showed remorse for his actions.
I can't take back what was done, and I wish I could. I would give my life for Austin.
And pleaded his case with the victim's family.
I didn't mean to kill Austin. Actually, I really didn't. You really think I did that? I didn't mean to hurt him.
However, the judge called out the defendant's actions for trying to fool the court during trial.
In Judge M. William Bowler's last words to Schumacher.
Record will show that you admitted that on July 23, 2013, in a phone call to your mother from the holding center, you stated, I am a 16-year-old blonde. Probably all I have to do is cry in front of the jury, and they're going to feel sorry for me.
Finally, it was time for the...
To me, if I'm anyone related to her, I'm gonna be like, you fucker. God damn it, well, you're not just the most evil human alive.
Child killer to learn his fate.
That you be sentenced to an indeterminate term of imprisonment, which will have a maximum of life. The court hereby imposes a minimum sentence of 25 years.
Ultimately, Schumacher was given the maximum sentence of 25 years to life in prison for the murder of young Austin, while Dylan Schumacher got a hefty sentence for the death of a toddler. What happens when a teenager kills his own mother?
So I dug that hole, threw her body in there, filled it back in, made it look all nice and natural, dumped my clothes, and then I went home.
like in the case of Greg Ramos, who's facing murder charges in Volusia County, Florida. On the afternoon of November 2nd, 2018, 15-year-old Ramos returned from school to find his home completely ransacked. Unable to find his mother, he called 911.
911, where's your emergency?
I just got home, and my house is completely trashed. It looks like someone broke in the side door.
Okay. How long have you been gone?
I've been gone all school day. I got home.
Are you there by yourself?
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 15.
Okay, I want you to stay on the phone with me. We are not going to disconnect until I have an officer that is with you, okay?
When authorities arrived, Ramos appeared distraught at first and gave them a list of things that the alleged burglars took.
I had a radio here, and I had an extension cord with your alarm clock, and then I had my $1,000 computer here.
However, police found inconsistencies in his story and brought him in for further questioning. This is when Ramos gave them a chilling confession.
All right, so I got home. I got in an argument with my mom. She slapped me across the face. She began to hit me. She started beating me. I didn't like it, so I strangled her to death.
Ramos admitted to
So he got brought in like, hey, we need to ask him more questions. And he was just like, shit, okay, I'll tell you. I strangled her, okay? Okay, I know, you got me, I'll figure it out, okay? And they're just like, we weren't even thinking you were the guy. Okay, sure, why not? Guess I'd tell us more then.
Strangling his mother, Gail Clevenger, after the two got into an argument over his grades. He then went on to describe how he dumped the body of the 46-year-old.
When I drove back to the church, I began to dig a hole. I dig a hole right under the fire pit. I dug a pretty deep hole, deep enough to fit a body in, all right? All this time, my mom's decomposing body, I dragged it from my car to the fire pit, in which case...
I am not even joking when I say this. I have never heard a guy commit to a murder like it's just your average fucking thing going on. He is telling this like it's just the normalest thing, like he just does this on a consistent basis. I've never seen this before. This is a first for me. Like he's doing this like it's just your average, like he's just telling it to a bud. Like he's just telling it to his friend. Like, just like, hey, you ain't gonna believe what happened to me today. And then just is telling the story. So, guys, evil, man.
I tried to cut the wedding ring off her finger because I wanted to pawn it, but I couldn't. Threw her body in there, filled it back in, made it look all nice and natural, dumped my clothes, and then I went home. And I caught a ride to school with my friends, and... yeah.
After disposing of the body, Ramos cooked up a story to make his mother's disappearance look like a robbery gone wrong.
In the middle of the night, I realized that, hey, my mom just up and disappears. That's not going to make any sense. So I decided to make it look like a botched robbery. So I just went to my house and I just threw shit everywhere, which looked pretty convincing. Yeah.
Ramos was arrested and charged as an adult with first-degree murder, abuse of a dead body, and tampering with evidence. To avoid going to trial and a possible life sentence, the teenager pleaded guilty to all the charges against him.
Pleading guilty to first-degree murder, abuse of a dead human body, tampering with physical evidence. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you do it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ultimately, Ramos was sentenced to 45 years in prison, with a possibility of parole after 25 years for the murder of his mother.
I'm not standing here today to make excuses for myself. I'm here to honor and remember my mother. Not only have I stolen my mother from myself, but from everybody else as well. Because of my actions, I will never get to truly know my mom.
While Greg Ramos showed no regrets for his gruesome actions, how does it compare to intentionally crashing a car to kill someone? Like in the case of Mackenzie Sherrill.
Oh, I just heard about this kid. This one is so fucked. This is you will not convince me this woman did not intentionally do this. There were people trying to paint the picture she did it, that there was an argument or something. No, I am not, no, because there's too much to this. She did this on purpose.
Sherrill, who is accused of double murder in Ohio.
Yeah.
I'm not even cool. I'm just one of those girls that can do a lot of drugs and not die.
In the early hours of July 31st, 2022, surveillance cameras captured a Toyota Camry being driven around the city of Strongsville. At the wheel was 17-year-old Mackenzie Sherilla, with her boyfriend Dominic Russo sitting beside her, and their friend Davian Flanagan in the back seat. At first, the car made a normal right turn, appearing to be moving under the speed limit. Moments later, the unthinkable happened. Accelerating at over 100 miles per hour, the car veered off the road and smashed into the side of a building. The crash took the young lives of 20-year-old Russo and 19-year-old Flanagan. Miraculously, Sherilla managed to survive, with only injuries to her legs.
Duty.
Radio. This car's split in two. Radio, there's an occupant inside. Send us a squad now. Jesus Christ. This is the worst I've ever seen. Driver, 17-year-old female, still breathing, wedged in there. Two are going to be DOA. Okay. They're all young, possibly teenagers.
Even though it seemed like an accident, an investigation revealed that Sherilla had purposely accelerated moments before the car crash.
The prosecution is demanding a murder conviction because of evidence presented by experts that the gas pedal on the car was pushed to 100 miles per hour with 100% pressure without any attempts ever to hit the brake.
She wants us to think she drove the length of Progress Avenue asleep at the wheel. That she drove down that road that yourself drove down, Your Honor, and that somehow that car magically steered itself into that wall. Her foot was on the pedal the entire way.
Subsequently, she was arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder. At her trial, a trauma surgeon who worked on Sherilla's medical report took the stand. According to her report, Sherilla took responsibility for the deadly crash that killed her boyfriend and their friend.
Stated she, open quote, wanted to die, close quote, and that it was her fault for killing her boyfriend.
The defense admitted the crash was Sherilla's fault, but argued that she didn't cause it purposely.
You just said and read that Mackenzie said it was her fault, correct?
I did read those words.
That's what it says. It didn't say that she purposely killed someone, did it?
Those words do not appear in that note.
They said no one would ever know what exactly happened in the car that night.
We are really never going to know what happened in that car, much less prove by evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that she purposely drove that car.
This is the worst lawyer I've ever seen. That is an awful argument. That is an awful argument. I'm not even gonna lie, that is a bad argument here. That's bad. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I think that's a really bad argument.
Purposely. It has to be established that at the time in question, there was present in the mind of Mackenzie a specific intent to cause the death of her boyfriend Dominic Russo and her friend Davian Flanagan.
They also argued.
My argument to that is she said she wanted to die. So she drove and crashed that thing with the intention that she would die. And seemed to not have any regards to if those two died with her.
That there could have been a lot of factors that led to the crash.
Is it Dominic grabbing the steering wheel? Is it Mackenzie maybe speeding and say, oh my God, dark out, it's late, I'm coming up to this, I better do something, and she goes like that to avoid an accident, not acting purposely, but in fact trying to avoid it. Those are all possibilities.
Since it was a bench trial, the verdict was up to Judge Nancy Margaret Russo, who said Sherilla's actions were intentional and the teenager was aware of what she was doing.
The video clearly shows the purpose and intent of the defendant. She chose a course of death and destruction that day. Mackenzie alone decided to push the pedal to the floor and demand the ultimate speed of that vehicle to 90 to 100 miles per hour.
The judge also said Sherilla wanted to kill Russo and Flanagan, and perhaps herself too, in the crash.
She intended to also kill herself as a matter of speculation. They have no relevance to the weighing of the evidence in this case. Mackenzie Sherilla acted purposely and intentionally. In the early morning hours of July 31st, 2022, her purpose was to kill Dominic Russo and Davian Flanagan.
Eventually, Judge
So here's my only thing. This is where my only thing with her is, I believe. She did not want to kill Flanagan. I watched the body cam where someone said where it was said in there, another body cam thing related to this specific case. It said she argued with her boyfriend to not have Flanagan drive in the car with them. Because Russo, I believe was her boyfriend's last name. Russo wanted Mackenzie, to give Flanagan a ride home. She said no, and they had an argument about that. I think the reason she did not want to take this Flanagan. But her boyfriend says so much, it's like, okay, you're sacrificing him here. If anything, I would have dropped him off, then gone back, maybe do the whole fucking Yui and just start driving. But she made he kept insisting, she was like, okay, you're going this way about it. You don't know what's about to happen, but it was not like her. I don't think when she planned to do this originally, her plan was to take both of them. Her plan was to kill her and her boyfriend. Flanagan just happened to be an unfortunate add-on that day.
Margaret delivered the verdict.
The court, having had count one tried to pursuant to waiver, finds the defendant, Mackenzie Shirilla, guilty of murder.
At her sentencing, Flanagan's sister asked the judge to give Shirilla the longest possible sentence.
I would like you to give Mackenzie the longest possible sentence. I've known her for about 3 years, and as she's always taken the easy way out. She will be eligible for parole, while my brother will be gone forever. Thank you, Your Honor. Okay.
Russo's brother took the stand, where he said Shirilla was the most selfish person he knew.
Mackenzie's statement in the hospital to Detective Azu, "Can't you just take my license away for 10 years or something?" That statement is Mackenzie Shirilla. The most selfish person I know. Ironically, Dom was the most selfless person I know.
In a bid to get a lenient punishment, Shirilla addressed the court with a letter she had written.
The families of Dom and Davia, I'm so deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken. I love Dom and Davia. We were all friends, and Dom was my soulmate. I wish I could take all your pain away, and I'm so sorry.
Ultimately, Shirilla was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison for the murder of Dominic Russo and Davian Flanagan. While Mackenzie Shirilla could spend the rest of her life in jail for her senseless actions, what happens when you're accused of assaulting your date? Like in the case of Keandra Cook, who's facing attempted murder and robbery charges.
Oh, we've heard this one before. I've seen this one so many. I'm sick of this camera. I'm sick of this one. I've seen this too much. It drives me insane. Can we find new people? I'm sick of this fucking bitch. I'm sick of seeing this this courtroom one. This one specifically. I'm sick of it.
Charges in Daytona Beach, Florida. According to reports, Cook and her 17-year-old boyfriend Kendrick Bass used an online dating app called Meet Me to lure two men and set them up for a carjacking. During the attempt, Bass shot one of the victims and seriously wounded him. Bass was later sentenced to 20 years in prison. As for 18-year-old Cook, she pleaded no contest to the charges of carjacking and aggravated battery.
I just want to say that I'm sorry to the people wrong that her son had to get shot, because I didn't even know he was going to get shot. My boyfriend and his friends get me to do this. I didn't even know what was going on until I was at the wrong place at the wrong time.
At her sentencing, Cook apologized to the victim's family and pleaded to the judge for a second chance.
Asking for forgiveness for a second chance so I can get out and finish school and I can be my mama proud.
Now it was up to the judge to decide her fate.
This was intentional. It was an orchestrated ambush, and you are a main part of that. And for that, I'm going to go ahead and adjudicate you guilty of all 3 charges, sentence you to 20 years in state prison.
Suddenly, the courtroom exploded. Cook and her family had clearly expected a lenient sentence.
I believe if I've read this correctly, I've heard this about the 400 times I've heard this in my court videos. She was unaware of the family and that were unaware that it would lead to a longer sentence, or that they believed her confession would lead to no jail time, which, to be honest, just makes them fucking idiots. But, like, apparently that's what they believed, so I think they did a different trial. I think they just leaned it down to a few years, but I'm pretty sure it's still over, like, 10 years she's in jail. I think it's like 15 or something like that, something ridiculous like that.
Concurrent as to the first 2 counts of charges. All fines and costs.
It turned out that Cook took the plea deal falsely believing she would not face any prison time. Her sentence was thrown out, and she was once again back in court after a few months to learn her new fate.
I think that one's a case of bad lawyer. That's bad lawyers.
8. I'm going to adjudicate you guilty of all 3 offenses. As to count 3, I'm going to sentence you to 11 years Florida State prison. Adjudicate you guilty of all 3 offenses. As to count 3, I'm going to sentence you to 11 years Florida State prison.
Ultimately, Cook was sentenced to 11 years in prison and 20 years of probation for her.
20 years of probation? That's about as what. You know what? I'd rather just give me 31 years in prison. Give me 31 years in prison. Don't give me 20 years in probation. That's a nutcase thing. That probation officers are the worst. You sneeze the wrong way and they're on your ass. Give me 31 years. That's all I prefer.
Role in the shooting. While Keandra Cook's actions expose the dangers of blind dating, how does it compare to fatally attacking your school teacher?
I heard some gurgling coming from the spirit. Credit for that, and that's why I made sure she completely safe.
Like in the case of Willard Miller and Jeremy Goodale, who are facing murder charges in Iowa. According to reports, the 2 16-year-olds assaulted and killed their Spanish teacher, Noema Graber, at a park in Fairfield. Her body was found dumped beside a railway track, covered with a tarp. The 2 teenagers then went on to brag about their crime on social media. Both were arrested less than a day after Graber went missing. The murder weapon, a baseball bat, was found in Miller's room.
How did this even happen? Like, how do they end up at the same park as their Spanish teacher?
Their motive? Well, it turns out Graber gave Miller a bad grade in school, so he and his best friend Goodale decided to take revenge on the 66-year-old. During interrogation,
I have to kill that person. Why? Kill my teacher. Why? They gave me a B. That fucking... I gotta kill them. I gotta kill them. They gave me a B. I had to get revenge.
Goodale said he was supposed to be the lookout while Miller carried out the assault.
And we discussed general plan of, like, I'll stand up here, look out, I gave the signal and it's all clear, and then she walked by and hit her in the back of the head, and then I said, oh, make sure she's dead, so we hit her a couple more times.
However, out of panic, Goodale also got involved in the assault.
I heard some gurgling coming from the spirit. Credit for that, and that's why I made sure she completely safe.
Both teens pleaded guilty to first-degree murder. At his plea hearing, Goodale recounted what really happened that day.
On November 2nd of 2021, I met Willard Miller at Chautauqua Park. I understood that he had the intent to kill Mrs. Graber. Chaden had brought a bat, among other supplies, to go through with the murder. And after he had struck...
I just want to know how they knew she'd be there. Maybe this is just I just had to know how they knew she'd be there. Like, did they lower her there? Did they just know she always walked there? Like, that's what I'm confused. That's the only thing I'm missing. I can't figure out.
Noema Graber. We then moved her off of the trail, where I then struck her, and she died as a result.
At their sentencing, both Miller and Goodale apologized to the victim's family.
I'd like to take this opportunity to wholeheartedly accept responsibility for the role that I've played in the murder of Naheem McGregor. I would like to apologize for my actions, first and foremost, to the family. I'm sincerely sorry for the distress that I've caused you and the devastation I've caused your family. From the bottom of my heart, I am sorry for your loss.
While Miller showed no real emotion, Goodale was more remorseful.
Every day I wish I could go back and stop myself, prevent this loss and this pain that I've caused everyone. I know that my words will never be enough, but to Miss Graber and all her family, I'm truly sorry. Thank you.
Finally, the moment of truth arrived for the two teenagers to learn their fate.
The defendant, Willard.
He definitely literally has to go to jail. He has to go to jail for life. He doesn't even care that he killed this woman. He killed a 66-year-old woman who just gave him a B. I'm just gonna keep saying it's a B because to me this guy seems like the guy that if he doesn't get A's, it sets him off. So I could totally buy just looking at this fucking annoying bastard that this ugly fucker, that if he got a B, it would just set him to a new fucking realm. Like he'd be just start losing his mind after thought of a B. It would just play. He'd see the paper that has the B and it replay over and over in his head and he'd just start fucking losing his mind. It's the worst sin you could ever do. And this 66-year-old, how dare she give me Mr. Willard Miller a fucking B. That's how my brain visualizes him. So until someone tells me a different game, I wholly believe that he just got a B and he lost it.
Noble Chayton Miller should be sentenced to life.
God forbid she would have gave a C or a D or something like that. It might have been the whole family. But that B, that's just her death. If you would have given a C or a D or something like that, god dang, it might have just all our war breaks out.
Life with the possibility of parole after 35 years. The defendants shall be sentenced to life with the possibility of parole after 25 years.
Miller was sentenced to life in prison with a chance of parole of 35 years, while Goodale also got a life sentence with a possibility of parole.
He might get parole. Goodale might get parole. I don't know about Miller. Goodale might after 25 years. It'd be a long wait.
Parole after 25 years. While Willard Miller and Jeremy Goodale shocked the whole community with their horrific crime, what happens when a convict asks for God's help in the courtroom?
God! God! God!
The man screaming for a higher power is 19-year-old Damon Kemp, a double murder suspect in Florida.
You know what? We're gonna make quiet about that because there's a wrestler who went by the name Damon Kemp, and I'm surprised they went with that.
In 2018, Kemp allegedly shot and killed Trey Ingram and Jordan Payton.
Oh, it's in Florida!
Both 19, at an apartment complex in Daytona Beach. A witness heard the shots and called the authorities.
Very loud pops, just bang, 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 just very rapid.
Kemp was arrested and charged with murder and armed burglary. Now, at his bond hearing, Kemp was wheeled in, strapped to a chair. Safe to say, the defendant didn't appreciate it.
God! 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 God!
Folks in the gallery, you need to hold it down.
God! God!
He's just going.
Damon Kemp. My name is Judge Orfinger. I'm going to conduct your first appearance. I met you.
God!
Actually, shut your mouth. Well, you don't know the thing we're about to do if you don't shut your goddamn mouth, boy. Beat your ass.
Besides his yelling, Kemp also had a confused expression throughout the hearing.
I do believe that there is probable cause for the arrest. And under these circumstances, I am not able to grant you bond or any form of pretrial release.
And with each passing minute, the defendant's face turned more and more frightening.
I've appointed the public defender to represent you, so you have a lawyer this morning. And after I've done all that, I determine the conditions of your release, if you can be released.
I don't know why everything about that guy is just more funny to me than anything else.
Kemp was eventually found guilty of 2 counts of second-degree murder and sentenced to 3 consecutive life terms. While Damon Kemp's wild expressions certainly aren't for the faint-hearted, what happens when a convict bursts into tears in the courtroom?
I'm sorry for what happened, Your Honor, but he's life in prison, and I'm not a bad person.
Like in the case of Brandon Spencer, who is facing attempted murder charges in California. Police said that in 2012, 19-year-old Spencer was involved in a shootout at a Halloween party on the University of Southern California campus. 4 people were wounded in the incident. Some students fled the scene, while others hid. Reportedly, Spencer also ran with them, but was eventually captured by the LAPD. He was charged with 4 counts of attempted murder. During his trial, the prosecution argued that Spencer, a known gang member, fired into the crowd in retaliation against a rival gang member.
That if you are so intent on killing someone that you're willing to shoot them and at the same time open fire into a crowd.
However, the defendant maintained his innocence throughout the trial.
I'm sorry for what happened, Your Honor, but he's life in prison, and I'm not a bad person, but I made mistakes. But I'm not just some gangbanger that she tried to portray me as.
But the jury was having none of it and found Spencer guilty of all charges. Then, at his sentencing, as the judge read out his fate, Spencer completely lost it.
The minimum period of parole eligibility is 15 years plus 25 years of life in accordance with Penal Code Section 12022. 3D. This is to be concurrent with the...
He broke down and banged the table twice with his head before being held back by officers. Ultimately, Spencer was sentenced to 40 years to life in prison for the USC shootings. While Brandon Spencer had a total meltdown in the courtroom, what happens when a convict throws gang signs at the victim's family?
He started twisting and turning, making gestures toward the Potter family as though he enjoyed rubbing it in their faces.
Like in the case of Sean.
This is evil. This guy's evil. This guy has no care for human life at all.
Shondell Jackson, who is on trial for murder in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. According to reports, Jackson was 18 when he and another teenager shot and killed 21-year-old Nathan Potter during a robbery attempt as the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee student walked towards his River West apartment after a night out. 19-year-old Derek Thomas was arrested shortly after. He pleaded guilty to acting as the lookout and was sentenced to 12 years in prison and 8 years of parole.
Another man was sentenced today for his role in Potter's homicide. Derek Thomas pleaded guilty to acting as the lookout for Shondell Jackson. He was sentenced to 12 years in prison and 8 years on parole.
After the shooting, Jackson went on the run. He was arrested only after his uncle revealed his whereabouts.
I believe I did the right thing, and there's nobody can make me change that.
Facing...
Okay, so we have some smartness from family members. The uncle figured out the whereabouts probably because the other family member told me. He's like, yeah, no, you're the one for murder. You're not getting out of this one, no. And he's just like, I'm doing the right thing. I'm throwing him. He needs to go to jail for what he's done.
Felony murder charges, Jackson went to trial, where he showed no remorse, gesturing and cursing at the Potter family several times.
He started twisting and turning, making gestures toward the Potter family as though he enjoyed rubbing it in their faces, that he had killed their brother.
He was also seen smiling at the victim's family while being led out of the courtroom.
As he was led out of court, our camera caught him smiling at the victim's family.
Eventually, Jackson was convicted of first-degree murder. At his sentencing, the mother of the victim shared her grief with Judge Rebecca Dallett.
They shot him. They dragged him and kicked him to the curb. My son, my God-loving boy. What kind of people do this? But evil people.
The victim's father labeled the defendant as pure evil.
There's nothing that can be said to bring back our Nathan. But your sentence can ensure that Shondell does not have the opportunity as a free man to inflict pain like this again. Is there such thing as pure evil? We think so.
Finally, Judge Dallett read out Jackson's sentence.
I am going to go ahead on count 1, the first-degree intentional homicide conviction, and I am going to sentence Mr. Jackson to life imprisonment without possibility for extended supervision.
After learning his fate, Jackson once again turned to face the Potter family sitting behind him. However, this time, the deputies were ready.
I know that that is something that is reserved for the most serious of cases, and I believe that this case...
Just as everything seemed under control, Jackson suddenly exploded. As his family wailed in the background, Jackson was tackled to the floor and...
Oh, is this the one fuckers who also in the family start screaming, "I hate you" at the Potter family that they did something wrong?
Pepper sprayed. More deputies came in and defused the situation. Ultimately, Jackson was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for the murder of Nathan Potter.
100%.
While Shondell Jackson insulted the victim's family members in court, what happens when a murderer poses for the cameras in the courtroom? Like in the case of Isabella Guzman, who is facing murder charges in Colorado. In August 2013, 18-year-old Guzman brutally killed her mother, Yun Mi Hoi, at their family home in Aurora. When police arrived, they found the 47-year-old with over 151 wounds on her face and neck.
Wait, you can't say stab wounds? Stab is censor. Fucking hell, why are we censoring those dumb shit?
District 1 is looking for Isabella Guzman. Looks like cut her mother's throat.
Guzman fled the scene and went on the run.
She's on foot somewhere in the area.
After an all-night search, police arrested her from a nearby parking lot. During interrogation, Guzman denied killing her mother.
You left her to die, brutally, on a bathroom
I did
floor.
not murder anyone. Please stop
feel?
accusing me of this.
Just tell me how that feels.
Please fingerprint me. Please fingerprint me. Please fingerprint me. I will show you that I am not this freaky, horrible person.
Instead,
I don't buy this woman. She can't even convince anyone that she's not innocent. She just screams guilty.
claimed to be a different woman named Samantha.
Don't call me Isabella. That's
your name?
My name is not Isabella. My name is Samantha. I am not this girl. I don't know what happened with her and her life and who she is or what school she went to.
I cannot believe she's actually trying. That's fucking hilarious. I'm not even gonna lie.
That's not my problem.
As expected, the investigators refused to believe her story.
It's a funny game you're playing, but nobody's laughing. Do you think some juror sitting on a jury is going to believe that knife injuries to your hand?
Scissors.
It's not scissor injuries.
I told you they were scissors.
It's not scissor injuries.
Yes, it was. You're not going to bully me into admitting what you want me to like.
But Guzman was adamant.
I am not Isabella.
Really?
I'm very impressed.
You just sit here and completely deny all of this?
I'm not denying anything. I am being truthful.
She even refused to recognize her own father.
Jesus.
Rated at the Colorado Mental Health Institute in Pueblo. While Isabella Guzman's untreated mental health issues resulted in the death of her mother,
This woman's fucking insane. I'm sorry, I just had to skip this part because that's just weird to watch. I don't want to. But this woman, that woman's fucked. That woman needs some. That woman has some serious mental health issues. That's next level.
how does it
Unless there's a split personality, I don't know who the whole thing she had.
compare to grinning while being sentenced to life?
But Lindsay actually grinned when the judge read his ruling, the lack of remorse not lost on David Crawford's daughter, Amanda.
Like in the case of Nicholas Lindsay, who's on trial for murdering a cop in St. Petersburg, Florida. In 2011, Officer David Crawford caught 16-year-old Lindsay breaking into a car near Tropicana Field and stopped to question him. During the probe, Lindsay allegedly shot the veteran cop 5 times and killed him. A fellow officer noticed the gunfire and called 911.
Quarter B, I got shots fired over here. Shots fired. I got an officer shot. 4th Avenue South. Tell him to step it up.
Lindsay fled the scene and was on the run for more than 24 hours. He was arrested after CCTV footage of his escape was made public, which led to information about the suspect's whereabouts. During interrogation, the teen's parents convinced their killer child to confess.
So what
happened? Tell us what happened.
That's okay, son.
Tell him, Seven.
Lindsay went to trial as an adult for first-degree murder, where his father gave a tearful apology.
On behalf of me, my son, and our entire family, we send our deepest sympathy to the family and his colleague that he worked with. It's my only son, no son that it happened.
The defense fought for a lesser manslaughter charge, claiming that Lindsay panicked and fired his gun out of fear.
And I think it's more likely than not that he fired impulsively out of fear.
However, the prosecution argued that the defendant's actions were deliberate.
Every single shot he fired was exactly where he aimed it, at the body of Officer Crawford.
Eventually, Lindsay was convicted of first-degree murder. Then, at his sentencing, as the judge read out his fate, which was life in prison without parole, Lindsay sat there with an eerie grin on his face.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this reaction video. Let me know what you think in the comments, the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all for the next one.